Chocolate feels simple because we meet it in familiar forms: a candy bar, a warm mug, a cake, a cookie, a scoop of ice cream. But behind that everyday sweetness is one of the most complex food journeys in the world. Chocolate begins not as a smooth brown square, but as the seed of a tropical tree called Theobroma cacao. Those seeds, known as cocoa beans after processing, must be transformed through fermentation, drying, roasting, grinding, mixing, and shaping before they become recognizable chocolate. That journey matters because chocolate is not just one ingredient. It is a food, a flavor, a drink, a gift, a luxury, and a global commodity. Its story connects ancient cultures, European taste, industrial technology, agriculture, and the modern dessert industry. To understand chocolate, we have to start long before the wrapper comes off. The cacao tree grows in warm, humid regions, producing pods that contain seeds surrounded by pulp. These seeds are the starting point for chocolate, but they do not taste like a finished chocolate bar when they first come out of the pod. Raw cacao is bitter, astringent, and undeveloped. The flavor people associate with chocolate is created through processing, especially fermentation. After harvest, the beans and pulp are usually left to ferment for several days. During this stage, natural chemical changes begin building the foundation of chocolate flavor. Fermentation reduces harshness, changes the beans internally, and prepares them for later roasting. Without this step, chocolate would lack much of its recognizable aroma and depth. This is one reason chocolate is not simply a crop but a crafted food. The tree provides the seed, but human technique turns it into something desirable. After fermentation, the beans must be dried. Drying sounds like a basic preservation step, but it is crucial. If beans stay too wet, they can spoil during storage or transport. If they dry poorly, the final flavor can suffer. Once dried, the beans are cleaned and roasted. Roasting is where chocolate flavor becomes much more familiar. Heat develops aroma, deepens color, reduces unwanted sharpness, and helps separate the shell from the inner part of the bean. That inner part is called the nib. Nibs are small pieces of roasted cacao, and they contain both cocoa solids and cocoa butter. At this stage, the product is still not sweet chocolate. It is intense, bitter, and concentrated. But the essential material is now ready. The nib is the bridge between agricultural cacao and the chocolate products people recognize. The next major transformation happens when nibs are ground. Grinding releases the natural fat inside the cacao, called cocoa butter, and turns the nibs into a thick, dark substance known as chocolate liquor. Despite the name, chocolate liquor does not mean alcohol. It is unadulterated chocolate in rough, fluid form, made from ground cocoa nibs. This material can go in different directions. It can be molded and sold as unsweetened baking chocolate. It can also be pressed or processed further to separate cocoa butter from cocoa powder. Cocoa butter is the rich fat that gives chocolate its smooth melt. Cocoa powder carries much of the intense chocolate flavor after much of the fat has been removed. These two components help explain why chocolate can appear in so many forms, from bars to drinks to cakes. Dark chocolate is created when chocolate liquor is combined with sugar and often additional cocoa butter. The result is sweetened chocolate that still keeps a strong cacao identity. The more cocoa solids it contains, the more intense and often more bitter it tastes. Dark chocolate shows the power of balance. Sugar softens cacao's bitterness, but too much sugar can hide the deeper roasted notes. Cocoa butter improves texture and melt, but the flavor still depends heavily on the beans and processing. This is why dark chocolate can taste fruity, earthy, nutty, smoky, or sharply bitter depending on its origin and production. Even though people often treat chocolate as a single flavor, dark chocolate reveals that cacao has a range similar to coffee or wine. The final bar is a controlled expression of bean, roast, fat, and sweetness. Milk chocolate changes the experience by adding milk along with sugar. This softens the sharpness of cacao and creates a creamier, sweeter profile. For many people, milk chocolate is the default idea of chocolate because it is mild, easy to eat, and widely used in candy bars. The addition of milk also helped chocolate become more accessible as a snack food rather than only a strong drink or a bitter baking ingredient. Milk chocolate is not simply dark chocolate with less intensity, it is a different balance of ingredients. The milk adds body and sweetness, while the cacao provides structure and flavor. Its popularity comes from that approachable balance. It keeps enough cocoa character to be recognizable, but it reduces bitterness enough for mass appeal, especially in confections, coatings, and everyday treats. White chocolate sits in a more controversial category because it contains cocoa butter but not the cocoa solids that give darkened milk chocolate their brown color and deeper cacao flavor. It is usually made with cocoa butter, milk, and sugar. Because cocoa butter comes from cacao, white chocolate is connected to the same plant, but its taste is very different. Instead of roasted bitterness or cocoa intensity, it emphasizes sweetness, creaminess, and fat-driven smoothness. This distinction matters because it shows that chocolate is not only about cocoa powder or brown color. Texture is part of the appeal. Cocoa butter melts at around body temperature, which helps create the luxurious sensation associated with chocolate. White chocolate highlights that physical quality more than the roasted flavor, making it a separate expression of the cacao bean's components. Chocolate's global popularity is also tied to its flexibility. It can be a solid, liquid, or paste. It can stand alone as a bar, coat other foods, fill candies, flavor ice cream, enrich cakes, or become mousse, cookies, sauces, and drinks. Few ingredients move so easily between snack, dessert, beverage, and gift. This versatility comes from the way cocoa solids, cocoa butter, sugar, and milk can be recombined. A baker may want cocoa powder for flavor without too much fat. A chocolatier may want carefully tempered chocolate for shine and snap. A drink maker may want cocoa mixed into milk or water. The same basic crop can serve many culinary roles. That flexibility made chocolate more than a luxury taste. It became a platform for entire categories of sweets and desserts. Chocolate also became deeply connected to ritual and emotion. People give chocolate in molded shapes for holidays such as Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, Hanukkah, and Eid al-Fitr. Eggs, hearts, coins, and decorated boxes are not random forms. They turn chocolate into a symbol of celebration, affection, abundance, and seasonal tradition. This emotional role helped chocolate become more than a food product. It became a social object. A chocolate gift can feel personal, festive, romantic, or comforting, even when it is mass-produced. The reason this works is partly sensory. Chocolate is sweet, rich, and pleasurable. But it is also cultural. Over time, societies attached meanings to chocolate that made it suitable for special occasions. The product moved from nourishment and flavor into memory, ceremony, and exchange. Historically, cacao's use goes back thousands of years. Evidence places its use as a food source in what is now Ecuador at least 5,300 years ago. Later, Mesoamerican civilizations widely consumed cacao beverages. These drinks were very different from modern sweet chocolate bars. They were often liquid preparations, and chocolate existed first in the world as a drink rather than a solid candy. In the 16th century, a cacao beverage known as chocolate was introduced to Europe. There, it became associated with elites. For centuries, chocolate was not the everyday supermarket product we know now. It was expensive, labor-intensive, and socially exclusive. This early history matters because it reverses the modern assumption that chocolate is naturally a cheap sweet. For much of its story, chocolate was a rare, prestigious drink linked to status and access. The shift from elite drink to mass-consumed solid food happened largely through technological change in the 19th century and after. As processing improved, producers could separate cocoa butter and cocoa powder more efficiently, refine texture, mix ingredients more consistently, and manufacture solid chocolate at scale. This changed everything. Chocolate could now be produced in bars, coatings, and candies that were easier to transport, store, and sell. Technology also made it possible to standardize flavor and texture, which helped build global brands and consumer habits. The familiar chocolate bar is therefore not just a recipe. It is an industrial achievement. It required machines, supply chains, processing knowledge, and access to sugar and milk. Once those systems developed, chocolate left the salon and entered the lunchbox, vending machine, bakery, and corner store. Today, the chocolate industry depends on a global agricultural supply chain, and most cocoa beans used for chocolate are grown in West African countries, especially Ivory Coast and Ghana. Together, they contribute about 60% of the world's cocoa supply. That fact is essential because it reminds us that chocolate's sweetness rests on farming regions far from many of its biggest consumer markets. The story of chocolate is not only about flavor, history, or dessert culture. It is also about where cacao grows, who cultivates it, and how beans move into international manufacturing systems. Every chocolate bar contains multiple layers: tropical agriculture, careful processing, historical transformation, industrial production, and cultural meaning. The result is a food that feels instantly familiar but carries a surprisingly deep story. Chocolate became popular because it tastes good, but it endured because it can become almost anything. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.